Hello, Trade King traders. Rob Smith here from Smith's in the Black, and we're going to do a little run around here. The Dow Jones Industrial Average stocks, some things to keep an eye on for this week, and just a few other names. But let's get to it. Here, let's look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And if you've watched my videos over the years, you know we watch a lot of the inverted triangle pattern. And here you can see how the Dow Jones has formed this inverted triangle pattern on the weekly, and we fell down, came back, formed the triangle here, bounced up. As you remember, the apex very important here, right around 11.7, bounced up there, came down. Now we've had a rally up, and we've come down to try and test that general 11.7 area a few times. And most importantly here, last week, you'll notice that this week was completely within the previous week's range. It's called an inside week. So in order to regain upward momentum, we need to take out at least last week's highs. And if we take out last week's lows, that would take out the inside week to the downside, but we'd still be contending with this 11.7 area. So this is really what we're looking at. And if you don't recall, a good example of how important the apex can be, let's take a look at the monthly chart. And this is going back to 03, the large inverted triangle pattern. And so when everybody thought it was the end of the world, we came down here on the 10.5, boom, boom, boom. And you can see that just happens to be the apex of the larger triangle. So little historical advantage to knowing where the apex on triangle is. So let's go back to the weekly. And we're an inside week. So let's take a look at a few names in the Dow that are also inside weeks to give us some indication of which way we may go, or at least if we go up and take that inside week, who would be some of the stronger names, because they're also above some inside weeks. Or if we start to break down and break back into the range, who might already be weaker. So let's take a look at a few. Alphabetically, we can take a look at Alcoa. Pretty interesting here. Alcoa, you can see this inside week, trying to hold the 10 level here. And so to get some new momentum, it either has to break below 10 or above 11. And if you look at the daily, you can see it a little more clearly here. Support around 10. And so we'll keep an eye on Alcoa. Obviously, it's fairly wide range, but just something to keep an eye on. We did have a gap up in Boeing today. However, you can see coming up to a little resistance and top Bollinger Band. But if it can consolidate and the Dow itself starts to take out the weekly, you can see it was an inside week here. Now trading above and backing off. We'll see if it backs and fills or how it looks. And once again, once it does take out the highs of the inside week like it did today, then you can start to look for shorter term time frames set up. So we'd look for a daily signal to give us a buy and some intradays. But now it's in that level where it has taken out not just last week but the previous week's highs. Tractor, also a little bit of a gap inside hammers here, and then backed off. So I need that to set up again, but you know it's in strength territory, trading at higher highs. Getting close here is Intel. You can see this triangle once again. And normally like to get things lower in a triangle, but things do advance. But you can see just close, not quite taking out last week's highs, but we'll keep an eye on it. We had IBM also go up and come back a little bit. And this is interesting too when I talk about the triangles. This morning Warren Buffett came out and said that he owns about 5% of this company, and that got it going, but it did back off by the end of the day. And this weekly triangle can be a little bit concerning, but if we look at the monthly, triangles can also be continuation patterns. And by that I mean they don't have to continually pull back into the triangle. They can make larger triangles. And on this monthly you can see IBM continued to hold the top of this triangle, which is a very bullish sign that the triangle is expanding. So we'll keep an eye on IBM. Still inside for the week, Procter & Gamble. You can see that in the middle of the triangle here. So we're looking for either side of that for an indication of direction. AT&T, tightening up here a bit. If there's anything concerning here, you would look for things that have taken out the downside, and today we saw JP Morgan. And still going to have, not by much, but you can see it was an inside week. Didn't close below it, but right down in here, thinking about rolling back down. And, you know, once again, the level of last week's lows of 32.28, which it did not close there. Once it's below that, then we're looking for other shorter term time frames to confirm that it's actually going in that direction. But this is just a good way, using the inside bars, to get the general direction on the weekly on where things tend to be going. So that said, we also have our ExxonMobil inside week, still inside there. And one of the names I've talked about over and over again, and I can't believe this pattern is still going on here, but it's Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is an inside week and right on the apex of this triangle. And when I drew that, look at this, back in July, and we're still right around that 67.50 apex. So Coke really looking to find a direction. Tried to go down here, tried to go up there, but right back in the middle of the triangle. So we're looking for a real indication of breaking this week's inside highs or lows, to see, because if this triangle is expanding, and that's what inverted triangles do, the Coke should be setting up to go one way or the other for a pretty nice move. And we'll see how that plays out. But I've been saying that for a while, but it is, and the longer it sits here, get these bands to pinch in, Coke's got to go one way or the other. Still, one of the stronger names by far here is McDonald's, and you can see this barely affected by market weakness. A little bit up there on the Bollinger Bands and stuff like that, but for the most part, you can see the bull trend still intact. Gets a little shaky in here, but right now McDonald's still near the highs. If we look at Merck, and we talked about this too before. If you look at the monthly Merck, we can see this large inverted triangle pattern and then a symmetrical triangle pattern here with an inside bar hammer. And I talked about that, if that could get taken out. Now you can see that has. And it's still one of the stronger names, not backing off. I'm going to see if this would be a continuation pattern. Come up from here, form the triangle, and break to the upside. Still would need to break out of this upper triangle area. But so far, performing pretty well in a choppy market. So that's just a little, around the horn there in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Keep an eye on the levels of those inside weeks, because it certainly makes a difference. Because when the momentum takes over, that's the first indication of which way things are going. When you have that inside bar, since an inside bar represents equilibrium between buyers and sellers, unable to take things to new highs or new lows, and so someone's going to have to take strength in that strength of the direction. That said, we've got other names out of the Dow that keep an eye on this week, that on the first day of the week took out their highs or their lows of the week or are close. So with those financials, JP Morgan coming down, we're going to watch some of these insurance names. You can see ACE here, top of the triangle, inside weak, getting closer to the bottom. Chubb, CB, getting closer to the inside downside. With Celgene, CELG Biotech, an inside weak, getting closer to the upside of the inside weak. Lululemon, LULU, was an inside week and now testing the lows and closed below last week's lows. And Wells Fargo with the JP Morgan was an inside week, did not break last week's lows. Keep an eye on that. In the energy sector, we have, once again, we know Exxon, and when you see the S&P go inside, there's going to be a lot of things there. But specifically, let's take a look at a few weekly charts of Whiting Petroleum, WLL. Inside week, took it out to the upside, but backed off a little bit, so we'll see if it regroups to retake the highs of last week. And last but not least, Cimarex, XEC Energy. And you can see this inside week and just slightly above it. So if we can get Exxon and energy stuffs going higher, you'd be looking towards WLL and XEC because we know that they've already reached an equilibrium and are trying to move higher. If the financials go down, you can look for a break, possibly in ACE or Chubb or Wells Fargo with the JP Morgan. And remember, once they're below or above, then you look for shorter term signals. If they pull back into the range, then we have to reevaluate. But that's just a little bit of what I'm looking at. Feel free to comment and try and get to me if you have any questions, or email me directly at rob@smithsintheblack.com. Hope everybody's having a great week. I'm Rob Smith here for Trade King, and I'll see you here real soon.